I will defeat the Powerpuff Girls, or my name isn't Mojo Projo.
Progenitus versus Chainer, Tatsunari, and Kess. A one lander is an easy mulligan into way more lands up the beanstalk cantrips, so we'll try and keep this one. Alright, just a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman for the Tatsunari player. We draw into Anguished Unmaking, got the Mana Vault on the previous turn, although I don't think we've got much use for it here, so we'll just get down the up the beanstalk on turn 2, which draws us into another tap land. Not seen any plays from anyone else yet. We draw into another land with nothing to do on this turn, I don't think. So I suppose we might as well get down the Mana Vault. Tatsunari Toad Rider is the first commander to hit play, and then we get hit for 1 by the Shaman. The black player still not doing anything, 7 cards in hand, maybe holding up interaction to get rid of a commander or something. Alright, and a Trouble in Pairs, but because of the weird mana we can't get that down this turn. So do we hold up the Anguished Unmaking? I suppose that would be the thing to do here. Twist Reality is Manifest Dread, so gonna play the top card of the library face down. And that's the risky run, allowing our opponent to Vandal Blast the Mana Vault. Not likely getting into triple white anytime soon anyway. So yeah, it's annoying really. How many lands do we need for this? Just 6, so a couple more lands and we don't have to worry about the colours, but going a bit slower than I'd like here, not seeing any of the ramp. Making it so that our opponent isn't overloading the Vandal Blast at least. Animating the man land, Restless Spire is a 2-1. Manifest Creature goes into the right, and the 2-1 does as well, then deciding to pull back, and the mono black player scoops. So we just get attacked with the man land instead. How is Anguished Unmaking worded? Yeah, non-land, so just because it becomes a creature doesn't mean it is not a land anymore, so we still can't get rid of that. Might be able to get rid of an aura if we go after the commander with the Anguished Unmaking in response to something enchanting there. Argument to be made for us blowing it up before then so that they don't get the Kami. And now the 3-3 goes in against the Manifest Creature. I'm deciding to block with that, so we'll assume that this isn't a creature that can be flipped round. I mean, it is a Kess deck, so likely that it's an instant or sorcery. No, it was a Clever Impersonator. Would have been a 0-0 if he'd flipped it round. And a Citizen Champion, so that is when an enchantment enters, it's not a cast trigger. Might be worth getting rid of that instead of the commander. Yeah, I think I will go after the Enchantress here. It might be the only thing that is likely to keep them in cards. Oh, they've still got 5 in hand. Okay, Return of the Wild Speaker. We're still not doing a whole lot of anything, unfortunately. Just really need to see a land next turn, ultimately. I suppose I could have cast the Return of the Wild Speaker just to draw a card into Up the Beanstalk. Does feel like a bit of a waste this early on though, but with only 3 of us, maybe it's worth going a turn faster. Cursed Recording is whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, a time counter goes on this. 7 or more, you remove them and it deals 20 to you. But you can make copies of instants and sorceries, that's the main thing for that. Anyway, exiling something with the Deathrite Shaman. Arcane Signet for the Enchantress player. Do you play Arcane Signet in your green decks? I don't think I tend to run any rocks apart from Sol Ring in my green decks. Takanumar, another one from Kamigawa. And there we see Elemental Bond, more card draw, but not drawing into the Citizen Champion at least. Makes the Kami for the first time though. And the 3-3 still going in at the Izzet player. Alright, we do make a land and it is double white, so even without the World Tree we would have been able to cast a Trouble in Pairs, but all of our lands tap for all 5 colours now. But we'll try and get into something of relevance with the Trouble in Pairs. I'm assuming that Kess is going to want to play multiple spells in a turn. Noteworthy he doesn't have any black mana yet though, so he's not the only one struggling on colours. Deathrite Shaman exiles our Anguished Unmaking here. I don't think we've got a means of fishing things out of the graveyard. We've got Eerie Ultimatum for permanents, but I don't think we care about instants and sorceries. And it might be that the Izzet player could make use of our instants and sorceries, so good to see the back of those maybe. Anyway, we see Grolnox, so a bit of Frog Tribal in here. Not seen too many enchantments yet. I always assume that this is going to be Enchantress, maybe a bunch of auras. just to trigger it as much as possible. But that triggers the Elemental Bond for a cantrip, taking them up to 4 in hand. And when they draw their second card, we will draw with the Troubling Pairs. If they play another spell here, then we'll get another card. And that's a Wheel of Fortune, may well be worth playing that next turn. Grolnok triggers with the 2 creatures swinging in, one at us, one at our opponent. So we see a Volrath's Stronghold hit the bin, as well as a Dryad Arbor as well. And off You Can't Refuse, we know is not available to our opponent anymore either. Then able to play the Stronghold from underneath the Grolnok. So do we see that second spell or not? Doesn't look as though they are doing, just going through to the end step. Got 1 card from the Troubling Pairs at least. And now another land, so that puts us on 7. What's this player holding up though? This is when we cast, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll at least draw a card from the Avacyn. Oh, we actually can't afford the Avacyn, it's 8 mana, not 7. Alright, well in that case let's just try the Genesis Ultimatum then, that's just as fun a card. Up the Beanstalk draws us, doesn't look as though Kess is holding up priority. Up the Beanstalk triggers and draws us a card into Nature's Law, is good to clear out of the way because it's only permanents that we get from the Ultimatum. And looks as though we're going to keep hold of this, so yeah, finally getting into the ramp after all this time. The only thing of relevance there really is the Sylvan Library. We'll just put all of these into play. And we did get into a tap land there unfortunately, so can't go Cultivate. Might as well play the Nature's Law though. No real lands matter shenanigans in here. We don't have Field of the Dead or anything. It's just a means of fixing our colours as best we can, even though we're going very slow during this game. Noteworthy that Kess didn't do anything during our end step there, so may well be very much struggling on the black mana here, although we do see a sorcery. Destroy all artifacts. Deals damage equal to each creature, equal to the number of artifacts that were destroyed this turn. So that is Arcane Signet, blows up the Deathrite Shaman, and then everything else, because it got doubled up by the Cursed Recording, and he blew up his own Cursed Recording with this thing. So this will be particularly good in some kind of treasure deck, which is what I dare say it's for. Luckily it's just enchantments that we have. So our Kess friend over here probably just saved us a whole bunch of damage on this turn cycle, because us getting into so many lands probably means that he was swinging in towards us on this next turn, activating the Stronghold in order to draw into the Grolnok again this turn. So that is on top of the library and he's just drawn into it. Then plays a tapped Bajuka Bog and likely goes after Kess's graveyard, who will care about the graveyard because obviously wants to cast instants and sorceries from there. So hopefully don't see a scoop here. And gets the commander out again, cantripping with the Elemental Bond, which triggers our Troubling Pairs for our Urborg. Don't have Cabal Coffers in here, but just trying to fix as many colours as possible, as I've said multiple times this game. Alright, and there's a Rift for us, don't need that after that board wipe that we just saw. We'll look at some additional cards with Sylvan Library. There's more Ramping Hour of Promise, Temur Ascendancy. We'll need 13 mana from lands for Temur Ascendancy and our commander. Yeah, we're just 1 land shy unfortunately, so yeah, we can throw away the Hour of Promise. There's nothing particularly that I'm desperate to grab, but keeping hold of the Temur Ascendancy and the board wipe might be a clever idea. So we'll go down to 21, play Urborg, play the Cultivate as well, just so that we can shuffle as well as guarantee ourselves a land next turn. I suppose we could have held up the Archmage's Charm, but I don't think it's too likely that our opponents are going to have Exile for our commander, or for the Avacyn even. Might be that there's some kind of aura that removes all abilities and acts as a pacifism effect for it, but we'd still be able to block at least in that scenario, so we'll get the Angel down. And that cantrips us with Up the Beanstalk after we have shuffled. And there's a Seagate Restoration, might be good to try and cast that next turn so that we've got an unlimited hand size for the rest of the game. But going slow has paid off for us here. Not as likely that we're going to have our enchantments dealt with by a Grixis deck at least. Sat's Will, and that is each opponent sacks a creature they control with the greatest power, so the commander goes down, and see more Edict effects nowadays, so been hit by them a few times. The Avacyn dies to that, and of course I fix their black mana by haphazardly throwing down the Urborg. I suppose if I wanted to play around cards like that I could have gone for the And they have black mana for reanimate as well, so we can always Cyclonic Rift on that for the fun of it. Yeah, if I really wanted to play around not giving my opponent black mana, then we could have gone for the Cultivate and played the island instead. Tranquil Thicket was cycled by the Enchantress player. Yeah, I'd rather fix my opponent's colours here than have them scoop on us. So obviously, didn't really take it too seriously with throwing down the Urborg into our opponent struggling on colours. Tatsunari has been left in the graveyard, so probably has Animate Dead or something like that. The Grolnok we saw him draw into on the previous turn triggers once again the Elemental Bond. And once again, working very nicely with our Troubling Pairs. For Nyxbloom Ancient, probably worth getting down next turn. How many lands are we going to have? 14 by my count, and they all tap for any colour we want. So that means we'll have 7 left over, each tapping for 3. So we'll have 21 mana left after we get down the Ancient. Not reanimating his commander, so hopefully it wasn't a misclick that he left that in the bin. Rising of the Day is nice. We've got haste available to us already with the Temur Ascendancy, but this adds power to the Progenitus, meaning that we can hit someone twice for lethal. Didn't bother putting any kind of double strike in here, maybe True Conviction or something would be a good idea. See what else we can draw into if there's anything relevant. Yeah, I think we might just be drawing a bunch of cards with Seagate Restoration anyway, so we'll just dump the lands on top and not take any more life. And I'll play an island, we'll get down the basics, I'll play around a Blood Moon even though I don't think we're going to see one. I suppose I could have held on to the land for Seagate Restoration if we decide to cast that. Draw again with Up the Beanstalk. We know the 2 cards that are on top of our library. So then with that, let's go for the Restoration maybe? Yeah, I think that'll be alright. Try and tap for as many different colours as possible so that we can try and float some. Although I do want to... I don't think we necessarily need this, do we? Let's just go Cyclonic Rift for 2 onto our own Avacyn and then just recast it again straight away. Get down Rising of the Day, or do we just go Temur Ascendancy? We don't necessarily need the extra power, might as well draw a card here. Definitely want to hold up mana for the Archmage's Charm because it's a hard counter. And this is where the mana gets a little bit weird. We've got 2 floating, draw a card with Up the Beanstalk when we recast that, so we can always go Return of the Wildspeaker to draw a card, or draw 8 cards actually. Draw another one with the Temur Ascendancy now that that's in play. Alright, Fist of the Suns. Would we rather surprise our opponents with that, especially against red mana? We have seen artifact removal a couple of times, so I'd rather surprise my opponents and go off with that next turn, I think. So, yeah, we don't have an unlimited hand size. We'll just have to discard stuff here, I think. So we draw cards equal to the greatest power of non-humans we control. Up the Beanstalk triggers again. And there we get the Timeless Lotus. I would have cast that instead of the Return of the Wildspeaker. Alright, a Sol Ring. We've got spot removal available to us now. Getting into some good stuff. We're just going to have to discard a lot of mana, I think. So we'll finally start to do some damage. Let's go into the left. I think Kess is going to be the most disruptive here. Plus it has Vigilance, so no reason not to swing in with that. But hopefully we'll be able to swing in for lethal next turn. We've got more means of haste with the Maelstrom Wanderer now, plus that's a lot of damage. And we've got the counter magic backup, like I said. Discard a bunch of lands. This is going to come into play tap now, so I think it might be too slow. Getting rid of Sol Ring, the Wheel, and do we want the additional power from this? I think we might, so I'll keep hold of it. Yeah, let's give up on the Sunbird's Invocation, I think. We'll probably draw into a land next turn with the Seagate Restoration, so I'll get rid of our last land I was going to keep hold of. That is, when it enters, each player mills 3, and then discards a card and you draw. That's fine, we will allow it. Really helping our opponents carry on playing now that we've fixed his black mana. Really unlucky to get into this many lands without any black. And with that, we mill the Chromatic Orrery, Kodama's Reach and Tropical Islands, so like I said before, we are seeing the ramp eventually. Just have to draw enough cards to do it. Grolnok has seen permanents hit the graveyard with that mill, so might be grateful of it. We'll throw the Swords to Plowshares away, hopefully won't regret doing that. And because Kess drew a card, Troubling Pairs draws us as well. So milled here, Life from the Loam, an Overgrowth and a Dark Ritual. Verdurine Enchantress has ended up in the graveyard as well. We draw into a swamp, so there we go, got our land for next turn. And we've got one of each basic as well, which is handy to have if we do want to play around Blood Moon or anything like that. So underneath the Grolnok, Overgrowth and Verdurine Enchantress. And now Faithless Looting is the second spell, so we draw again. Troubling Pairs doing what Troubling Pairs does. Defense of the Heart, haven't seen too many creatures stay in play for that long this game, but good way for us to cheat out what few creatures we do have in the deck. I think there's only about 10. In Kess's graveyard is the Ancient one. Couple of lands, Reanimate and Sat's Will we've seen already. So then discards Orvar and the Realm Breaker. So not loading up his library with instants and sorceries. It might be that next turn, if we can keep this board intact, we're able to go for our Commander and Maelstrom Wanderer with Counter Magic backup, take this player out and, yeah, maybe getting down. We could get Rising of the Day down the turn after, because that would be 21 points of Commander exactly, but take Progenitus in over here next turn. Volrath's Stronghold during the upkeep pointed at the Tatsunari, forgot about Volrath's Stronghold, so maybe doesn't have Reanimation, is just relying on that. The more your commander goes down, and he put it into the command zone instead of on top of his library, that's unlucky. Might see a shame scoop because of that. The way that your commander changes zones on Magic Online's a bit weird, that you just wasted some mana for no reason with that. That feels bad. That's 3 mana that he could have had this turn. Still has 6 mana available to him though, and could go for Verdurine Enchantress and an Overgrowth, wouldn't be the worst. Luckily for us, it's commander damage that our opponent needs to be concerned with. He's still at 38 life over there. Grolnok helping us to get rid of Kess. Mills 3 when he does so. And there we see some more permanents. It is Oversold Cemetery, Croaking Counterpart, and the Utopia Sprawl. So Croaking Counterpart will stay in the bin. Utopia Sprawl, as you would expect. I think he can cast the Verdurine Enchantress, can't he? Maybe he's got other plans here with the multiple cards he's got available to him. Attrition is the second spell, so you can destroy a non-black creature. Luckily we've got our Avacyn back last turn. Draws us into a Mystic Genesis, so I mean we just go absolutely nuts next turn if our opponents allow it. For every Wooburg that we create with our 5 lands, we'll get 3 spells with the Fist of Suns that we can cheat, with them tapping for 3. So at the moment that's our Commander, Maelstrom Wanderer, and the Mystic Genesis, I think. And then we can carry on doing even more after that. Kess is holding up priority, so may well still have counter magic. But our creatures alone can take him out now, thanks to the attacks going in over here. We might have been able to take them out anyway. No, I think the Grolnok going in here is relevant. Okay, so managed to hold on to our Archmage's Charm is very good. Might be able to set up a Cascade with the Maelstrom Wanderer. Another land off the top. We'll look at the next 2 with Sylvan Library. And there we see 2 excellent ones. Two-Headed Hydra and the Ugin. Or actually we won't Cascade into Ugin, we'll go right past it. So let's put the Marsh Flats on top. And the Two-Headed Hydra on top we can Cascade into, draw into Ugin for the turn just in case. But I imagine we are beginning to win here. So go for the swamp, we don't have to worry about landfall or anything in this deck. We'll make that a Fist of Suns and then begin to make Wooburg all over the place. That means that our spells only cost 5 mana in all 5 colours, which obviously becomes a massive reduction when you start to make a hell of a lot of mana. So once that lands, let's go for the Maelstrom Wanderer first of all. Make triple blue, white, green, red and black. Noteworthy that we haven't even played our commander yet. So up the Beanstalk can go on the stack first so that we can cascade into that Two-Headed Dragon. May well be able to... probably won't be able to take this player out on this turn, but we'll try. Haste is certainly going to help us out with that. Kess still holding up priority, so yeah, I'm not sure. Can only imagine it's just counter magic. Two-Headed Hellkite we knew was on top. That gets cast with the Maelstrom Wanderer. And you do cast with Cascade, so up the Beanstalk sees that and draws us. So we do see that Marsh Flats because of the way I stacked it on top. Could have gone two-headed Hellkite and then the Marsh Flats on top so that we cascade straight past this thing, but don't think it really matters. Not with all the obnoxious stuff we're going to try and do this turn. Temur Ascendancy draws us because it's a big creature entering. We are below the halfway point in our deck. We draw another land. The next cascade is a Ruinous Ultimatum. Unfortunately, that might mean that our opponent scooped to us, but I will cast it. It triggers up the Beanstalk again, which is an excellent 2-mana enchantment. This is all off one 5-mana Maelstrom Wanderer. So if our opponent counters here, okay, Cyclonic Rift, do we care that our stuff is indestructible or not indestructible anymore? I don't think so. I think we just hold on to our counter magic just in case. All you're really doing there is giving us another big spell to cast. Maybe he's thinking that this is going to blow up all the permanents in play, or all the non-land permanents, but it's a one-sided board wipe. Oh, of course, I forgot about the attrition. Did he choose black with this? No, so we can only blow up the Nyxbloom Ancient here. I suppose we're best just making a bunch of Wooburg. Alright, so we were one land shy of doing it again, but we've got a good number of spells, probably enough to do everything we need to do here, and we still got to keep hold of the Archmage's Charm as well. So draw into another spell, the Primeval Spawn, wipe out all our opponent's stuff with the Ultimatum, draw again with the Up the Beanstalk, into a Death Sprout, which is removal and ramp. We obviously want a lot of ramp in this deck. Maelstrom Wanderer finally going to enter, and that draws us again with the Temur Ascendancy, taking us down to 41 in the deck. And there we see Apex Devastator. So let's see here, let's go for the Progenitus, and that's only going to cost us 5 mana. Up the Beanstalk triggers again. We do have to draw into that. Get some more mana with the Feyburrow Elder, that's probably going to be a good idea to get that in. That'll make Wooburg again. Draw again with the Temur enchantment into the One Ring. I doubt we're going to need. Play Avacyn again, and at the moment with only 3 black pips we've got 3 Wooburg spells that we can cast, and we've drawn Beast Within and another land. Let's make it, we definitely want the Feyburrow Elder in play, but we can do that in a minute. Do we go Apex Devastator? We want Rising of the Day as well, although we can do that next turn. Let's go for the Majestic Genesis, because I hardly ever get a chance to play that, and with us having such an expensive commander, it is in exactly the right place in this deck. Cleared a land off the top with the Majestic Genesis, but get some more into play here, not as many permanents as you would expect though. So it's 3 lands, one of which is a tap land, and a Mirari's Wake to double up the mana, and that means that we can continue to make black mana here, so only a single black mana thanks to us letting the Nyxbloom Ancient go down. But let's play ourselves the Apex Devastator, just trying to take as many players out in this turn as I can. If I can get both of them, then I will. So we'll up the Beanstalk on the stack first so that we can not draw into any big spells past the Cascade. I want to try and cascade into the big spells, of course. So there is a Rhythm of the Wild for plus counters at this point, because we've got haste available to us already. And it keeps our stuff from being countered, not that I think that's relevant here. And this player decides to scoop, because it's a solitaire turn this. Which means he's thrown this player to the Wolves, but was looking like a foregone conclusion anyway. So we'll bounce a permanent and draw a card. And the permanent can be a tapped Tricycle land, and that is with the Cryptic Command. Do have a few counter spells in this deck, but they're all modal spells so that we can do stuff like that if needs be. Handy to think about when you are looking to cascade. Skyshroud Claim, might as well play. Not sure how many lands we've got left. Yeah, we've still got some, so we'll get both of those in. And I will shock down the Stomping Ground. Final Cascade with Apex Devastator is another modal spell for us, so Mystic Confluence in this scenario is just draw 3 cards. And it's also a 5 mana spell into Up the Beanstalk, so let's actually draw 4 cards off that. Now we've got the Bloom Tender available to us as well for more Wooburg if we want it. And there's a Sakama to untap all of our lands, which I think we kind of have to do at least before combat. Plus counter on the Devastator. Draw with the Ascendancy. And we've got Rhystic Study, Chromatic Lantern. Let's get down the dinosaur to untap our lands, and then do we even have enough on our opponent yet? Yeah, I think we definitely do now. But Zakama enters with a plus counter, draws us a card. Zakama, because we cast it, will untap all these lands. So we could just play absolutely everything from our hand at this point. Although I don't think we were going to struggle on doing that anyway. So do we just want to do the funny thing and draw into an empty library and end up killing ourselves? I think that would be a funny thing to do here, because all we have to do is turn in sideways, and it rewards our opponent for playing this out. I do appreciate it. So we'll play the Seagate Restoration and draw into an empty deck and kill ourselves off. 23 cards in our hand, 17 in the library. And with that, we hand the victory over to our opponent. So, yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to patronise my opponent or anything, but all we do is turn in sideways with all our creatures for the victory there. So, good game to my opponent. I appreciate him playing that one out. Argument to be made for us having the True Conviction in the deck for double strike. We can't target our commander with any form of double strike because it has protection from everything, but we do have a few means of putting plus counters and, well, plus buffs in general. We only need to make it an 11 power creature in order to make double strike relevant, so might be worth doing, but I don't imagine I'm ever going to play this deck again, so something to bear in mind if you do want to build it. Deck list is in the description as ever, along with the link to Patreon. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.